explorers! Welcome to another fun and exciting learning with me, Teacher Mugs, your science chum. Have your pen, paper, and modules ready for today. We will learn about the ecosystem in the tropical rainforest. Last week, we studied about animals and we classified living things as vertebrates or animals with backbone, and invertebrates, animals without backbone. So before we start, let us first have a riddle. I will give you 10 seconds to answer the riddle. I am the biggest one in all my family. I can hop, swim, and croak like the smaller ones you see. Who am I? The answer is frog. I am very small, but I can climb trees, cut leaves, and carry them to my nest even they are 50 times heavier than me. Who am I? The answer is ant. I am the slowest moving animal of all. I hang from the branches in the canopy, and I am so still that predators don't see me. Who am I? The answer is sloth. Trivia! A riddle in Tagalog is bugtong, which is a lesson in Filipino. Have you visited the forest? What kind of plants can you find in the forest? What kind of animals live in the forest? A tropical rainforest is very dense, warm, and wet, located in the band of equator, mostly in the area of tropic Cancer. The living things that live in one place depend on their environment. They form relationships with other living things and with non-living things in their habitat or home in order to survive. These living and non-living things together form an ecosystem. How will you describe this ecosystem? The ecosystem is composed of the habitat where organisms live. Living things are biotic factor, which comprise all living organisms, and non-living things are abiotic factor, which is characterized by the physical factor that affect the life. An ecosystem can be natural or artificial. A natural ecosystem operates by itself without being interrupted by human beings. It can be terrestrial or aquatic. On the other hand, artificial ecosystems are man-made or manually or artificially maintained, like the halamanan in Tabang, Guiguinto. This time, let us classify them as living or non-living things. I'll give you 1 minute to answer. Trees, tropical shrubs, carbon dioxide, sunlight, birds, oxygen. If you got the right answer, you deserve a star. Now, let's talk about the layers of rainforest. The rainforest is made up of 4 different layers: the emergent layer, the canopy, the understory, and the forest floor. Emergent layer. This is the top layer of the forest, and it is about 130 to 180 feet tall. These trees take up a lot of sunlight and also exposed to wind. Next is canopy layer. It is located under the emergent layer. It is tall, slender trees from a dense platform of vegetation, and it is about 60 to 129 feet off the ground. The third layer is understory. It is rise to about 59 feet and below. It consists of trunks of canopy, shrubs, trees, and small plants. And the last layer is the forest floor. It's home to animals like jaguars, tigers, and cassowaries. Also organisms like fungi, insects, worms, and litter from the taller trees fall on the forest floor. Trivia! Tropical rainforests are found in South America, Australia, West Africa, Southern India, and Southeast Asia. The Philippines has a tropical rainforest. Interaction occur among species in the forest ecosystem. All living things need energy in order to live, and they get their energy from the food they eat. All food chains start in plants and end in animals. Plants are called producers because they produce their own food from sunlight, water, and nutrition they get from the soil. Producers provide food for the consumers, which include herbivores, the plant-eating animals, and carnivores, the flesh-eating animals. Animals are called consumers because they cannot prepare their own food and are directly or indirectly dependent on plants for their energy. This illustration is an example of food chain. It is a linear series of organisms illustrating a one-way route of feeding relationship. Consider this food chain. It starts with plant, eaten by worm, and the worm is eaten by chicken. Then the chicken are eaten by snake, and finally are eaten by hawk. Food web is a multiple interactions among different types of organisms, a network of many food chains. Draw a food chain using these 5 organisms: hawk, grasshopper, plant, snake, and bird. If you draw like this, you deserve your second star. The interlocking food chain in a food web shows how organisms interact in the feeding relationship. Aside from the biotic components of the ecosystem, the organism or the living things also interact in the ecological relationships. These are the 5 commonly ecological relationships in the ecosystem. Predation. When an organism kills smaller organisms for food. Example of this is when a snake eats a rat for food. Predator usually organisms which are stronger, bigger, and fiercer compared to prey. Next is competition. Is an interaction wherein organisms compete for the same needs in their environment. They compete for source of food, sunlight, water, soil, territory, and mates. Next is mutualism. Is a relationship that occurs where both participating organisms benefit from each other. For example, a bee or butterfly suck nectar from a flower for food. In the same way, the flower benefits by having the butterfly carry its pollen grains in order to pollinate and reproduce sexually by transferring its pollen grain to another flower. Another common ecological relationship in the ecosystem is commensalism. It is an interaction where organisms live together without harming one another. One typical example for this is an orchid on the trunk. In this relationship, the orchids attach themselves to the trunk of the trees. The orchids make their own food, and roots can absorb moisture from the air and do not take anything from the trees. They simply use the trees for exposure to get much needed sunlight. Another example is a relationship between the cattle and the cattle egret. The white bird eats the insects found in the body of the cattle, while the egret is eating the insect. The cattle remains unaffected and just continues to eat grass. The last one is cooperation. It's a type of interaction where organisms cooperate with each other for their survival, like ants, bees, and termites. Shows cooperation and each member has a specific task to do.
Identify the ecological relationship of the following pictures.
If you got the 5 correct answer, you deserve your third and last star. You learned that ecosystem is an environment where both living and non-living things exist and interact with one another. You also learned the different layers of the rainforest, the emergent, the canopy, the understory, and the forest floor. You also learn the feeding relationship like food chain and food web. And the last is the 5 common interaction like predation, commensalism, mutualism, competition, and cooperation. The importance of forest. The forest provides habitat for animals and plants. The forest help maintain the global climate. The forest provides materials for construction. The forest serves as a watershed. And the last, forest helps in soil conservation. That's all for today, young explorers. I hope you had fun in Science 6, where learning becomes easy through discovery. I hope I answered your what, why, and how questions. For the great mind of young scientists like you, learning never stops. Follow your imagination wherever it allows you to go. This is your science teacher, Teacher Max Golicruz. Thank you for joining me today. Keep safe!